Joe, just tell us about your day and your week. How's it gone? I'm feeling for you. Do you need some welfare?
Is this the start of the podcast,
It don't
or is
matter.
this just like a general chat?
Well, it's a general chat, but you're generally good at
Oh,
cutting in generally.
yeah, I guess so. I'm very busy at the minute. As you know, I work for the Department for Education. I'm on a big project at the minute, that's taking up quite a lot of time. So
Is it about like algebra or fractions and that, Joe?
no, not quite. No,
No.
it's no, not quite. But it's fine. Just quite long days, I guess, if you like.
Bless.
Boden, Boden, send more house to save the house. Come on, the house!
Welcome everyone. So it's the Housecast midweek episode. It's the second week that we've recorded, which is great in winter, and we try and keep that up. So welcome to Lord's Cricket podcast. Joe Martin's on with me, a co-host. He's a stalwart, really helps out. He's come on here probably as a listener, really, because I don't think he was around when we're going to talk to these two guests about their eras, etc. But yeah, so you've had a busy period, Joe. But I think the podcast last went down well, didn't it? I've had a few messages. Guess the winner. Have you heard anything? Because there is a bit of controversy.
There were some people complaining last week at the bonfire, I think, was that the same winners are always winning, and it's always the
So
rich
actually
people, and it's always the
complaining.
rich people.
Right. So there were actual complaints about it.
Well, I don't know if they're actual complaints, but they were more kind of, sort of
Whingers.
that they've not won. But it's all fair and above board, Jez.
Absolutely.
You
We
know.
can't do it any fairer than we're doing it, but I'm glad that no one brought up about the controversy.
Oh no, I don't think I know about it.
I do, I think.
Well, it's between me and you, Joe.
Oh, okay. Between me and
Um,
you, why?
well, don't tell anyone else, but one of the
Okay.
winners, who will remain nameless forever from me, they stopped paying the subscription a few months ago.
Oh no.
And they've left the draw. So I made the decision. I consulted an ally, and we can't be paying out when they haven't been in the draw for so long. So we're going to have to draw another number at some stage.
Okay.
Um,
We're gonna have to think of the logistics of that, Jez,
yeah,
as a kind of because eagle-eyed listeners will be able to, when you say it's for 70
oh,
pounds or whatever
oh
for the
yeah,
July draw, or I don't know if it
yeah.
was that. No, we didn't do July, did we? So,
Mm,
just thinking with my old intelligence hat on, Jez.
right. Well, we might have to work out a strategy, a little plan that will fox people.
It's just a surprise winner, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay then. Right. Well, we can sort that out between us. But yeah, really, Joe. Thanks very much for coming on tonight. It's a podcast that I've been in the throes of arranging for a few weeks, really now, if not possibly a couple of months, and it is probably a late '90s into the 2000 episode with the two guests we've got on. But I'm really excited to chat to them and go through, their thoughts and their feelings about how cricket, what they got up to, and some of their memories. So,
I mean,
Alan,
I can sort of vaguely remember discussions around the guest tonight, Jez.
right?
I mean, I'm not, I can't really remember that much about it, so it'll be interesting to listen to it. But
Yeah.
but I can always remember people saying, I wonder what Chris Boden's gonna say this week.
What nonsense is
Yeah.
going to come out with it?
Yeah, what nonsense, what nonsense. So before we go on to the main guest, I thought it was only right that we get someone on who was a real mainstay at the cricket club during this, and still is, obviously, but it would be good to get his views around that period and how things were going with it, with the cricket and away from it. So Matt Hope, welcome on to the Housecast. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, very well, Jess. Thank you. Very well. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to
No.
it.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming. It was, like I said, a bit of a brainwave because I remember some of the stuff that were going on, and you were heavily involved in captain at the time of when we'd of what we're going to talk about this evening. So we'll go on to the main guest. Welcome, Matt. Just chirp up whenever you want, whatever you know when we're talking. It will be just heavily about catching up, having laughs, and reminiscing. So the main guest, I think it's worth pointing out, is highly thought of in the press world. Probably not just within Burnley, but further afield, maybe in the northwest and all around England. So he's a journalist who worked for the Burnley Express going back donkey's years when newspapers came out and people used to wait for them behind the door to check on various things. So it's Chris Boden. How you going on, Chris?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having us on. Good to speak to you all again.
Yeah, no, it will be good to catch up because when you think going back all those years, we'd see each other well every summer, almost every weekend, if not more, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. You've disappeared. So it does interest me, Chris. Before you even came down the club and were reporting on our games, we knew each other, through Edward Lee and through other people, the rest in the journalist world. There will be people who are really interested in this, including myself. Just explain how you got into journalism and how young you were and how that occurred and you got to where you got to.
Well, it's one of them things that I always wanted to be. I weren't good enough to be a footballer, So if you're not good enough to be a footballer, I wanted to write about it instead. And a mate of mine who, he ended up making an awful lot of money working in places like Dubai and Saudi. I met him for a couple of pints in Chorley a few weeks ago, and he said he always tells his lad about my story because I wanted to do something, and I went out and made it happen. And I wish I'd made as much money as he had. But no, it was just one of them things. I think I can remember being about 12, 13 at school and just, this is what I want to do. I was at school in Chorley, and I think it comes with, we're about 15 and we had to arrange work experience, and I lost a coin toss to go on work experience at the Chorley Guardian, like my local paper then. I was a big Burnley fan already then, and a mate of mine, he said, I'll be able to take you to Burnley in the morning if you can arrange it with Burnley Express to get some work experience. So I ended up on work experience in 1990, and 4 years later, after I was on a journalist course in Preston, and the course tutor rung me up one Friday. Says, "You'll never believe this." Says, "Burnley Express wants a sports writer." It were like it was fate. It were meant to be. So got an interview and went on and on about Burnley Football Club and about Warren Stowe, who I was sort of following at the time through through the local media, the Telegraph and the Burnley Express, and I liked a bit of boxing as well, and. They seen enough, or I was a cheap enough hire to take on there and then. So, April '94. That was when I got taken on.
Okay, so how you're saying you were 12 or 13. What? And I can't remember being at school, but I'm just thinking, what career paths, what subjects would you need to excel in and be encouraged to push for, whether it's for exams or just for your own, you would think English or whatever. What did this push you on?
English, and my thing was history. It was one
Okay.
of them things. I had good teachers in both subjects, but it's one of them histories, one of them things that I always remember my teacher saying, you can analyse, what's happened in the past and say what you want to say about it as long as you can back it up.
Mm.
And it's the same sort of thing with journalism. You put your opinion over. People can agree with it or disagree with it, but as long as you can back up that opinion, and it's not just off the cuff sort of thing. You produce your facts and figures, and you get sources to try and back up your claims, etc. And that's I ended up you do your GCSEs. Ended up at Blackburn College doing A levels, English history. You had to take a third one, didn't you? I ended up doing some nonsense like sociology, which was just
Right.
cobblers. Never used it before or after, and
No.
and they finished the A levels, and it was just like, cause the sort of journalism degrees weren't a massive thing then.
Right.
And you go to all your careers conventions, and I'd be like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And nobody seemed to know. And then I think this course had started. It was just a single year like called the pre-entry to journalism at what was Preston Poly now. Well, it's not even UCLan, it's ULAN, isn't it now?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
like I say, I was about a month late joining that course, and I didn't finish it either because I ended up getting the job before I was supposed to go back and take my exams. But as you do, you bury your head in the sand and
Yeah.
hope
And
they go away. And
yeah, yeah. And if you've got the job, I suppose, then it's not as important. And how old would you have been then in '94, Chris, when when you first got appointed?
yeah, I was 19.
So that's very
19.
young. That is very young, isn't it?
But that was probably, without doing myself down too much. That was probably it. I could tell you my first pay packet, 110 quid. We used to get paid every Friday.
All right.
Remember Steve G played at Paddy and very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, of course, yeah,
Steve,
yeah.
Steve worked in accounts, and I was saying I've just been at ITOR Troops exhibition at the weekend, and I can remember going. You get your pay on a Friday. I can remember going around the corner and to Originals and picking up a going out shirt or something like that, and then
Yeah, yeah.
off we went wherever we went that weekend.
Well, it's a great memory to remember your weekly pay, and then as you start to progress, I'm guessing that the experience is fantastic. And that encourages you to learn how to write better, and you will obviously be making mistakes around that time.
Oh, yeah.
As you get, who else were the other sports reporters and editors around that time?
There's literally, there was myself and Edward Lee, who was like a big mentor to me. And well, within 12 months, we'd been joined. We had two sister papers with over in Nelson with the Nelson Leader, and they were like paired with the Cone Times and Barn Oldswick in Eby. So George Embley came over to our sports desk. Who, people will remember George, no doubt. He was sort of king of Pendle sport. And a pal of mine, Matt Evans, who unfortunately sort of 3 years ago, he was only a year older than me, and he passed away sadly. But I love Matt to bits. He was, like I say, he was my age group. We were into similar music, and he came from Clitheroe. We used to spend a lot of time together, messing around in and out of the office, and lunch, the old long lunches, liquid lunches at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the journalists and the detectives. There was plenty of meetings up in various bars, etc. Matt, I'll just bring you in there. Can you remember because I certainly can, and I can talk through it. How important the Burnley Express was in the early days. Certainly whether it were football or cricket for us. Our dad, Jeff Bomber, as everyone know him, used to get a Burnley Express on a Thursday night in the General Williams from someone who printed it. Can you remember that, Matt?
Yeah, I can, Jez. Yeah, and it was massive. There was none of this. Obviously, the Lancashire League website as it is now. So it was, daft as it sounds, even to the point of you didn't know how Burnley went on at cricket that day that you were playing.
Yeah.
Until you read the paper,
yeah.
and as we got a bit later on, then it was a lot more easy to follow and things. But no, it was massive. And then you'd always, when I was captain, and I'm sure it happened with other people, Chris would ring you up during the week to get whatever you were going to want to put in for the preview on the Friday. It was never anything like I said on phone. It was always something different, trying to get me in trouble and stuff. So we'd have 20 minutes on the phone, just talking about the weekend upcoming, who we're playing, the team, our team, and all that kind of thing. And then on the Tuesday, you'd get was it the Monday or the Tuesday? I think, wasn't it? Yeah, Tuesday. You get the
Friday.
Yeah, you get the report on the match and the scorecard and things. But I just remember, and this was genuine. You didn't know the other results until the Monday when the Evening Telegraph came out.
Yeah.
So you always used to look forward to, as a sports person involved and playing and whatever else in sport, Monday night the Telegraph, and Tuesday and Friday's Burnley Express. And it was very, and I think we do get spoiled now, don't we? Because you can watch things live now from the Lancashire League and lots of other amateur sport. But it was literally those three releases, or those press releases there were massive at that time, and that's what people looked at and followed. And who got what and who won and who didn't, and it was it was it was big.
It
When
is.
you talk about getting people in trouble, man, I can vividly remember. I mean, aside from the Lancashire League, Monday morning we used to get, let's say, days before sort of internet and emails and all this sort of stuff, to get the Ribblesdale League scorecards with a selection of like people like scorers or whatever, people from the clubs who would ring you up on a Monday, Tuesday, and they'd just recite the scorecard down the phone to you. Remember Keith Crabtree at Reed and Earby and Pankaj Tripathi was at Padiham at the time, and he was going through the scorecard. You know, if there was like a unbelievable catch or someone had played, rather than just go through the scorecard, just to sort of like put a bit of colour to it all, he'd sort of give you a bit of insight. I can remember one day he sort of said to me, I think he thought he'd got someone out and umpires weren't having it, and he'd said to me, I told the umpire, you must have had your Walkman on to not hear the snake.
Yeah.
And I've just put this in as like a humorous aside. And if anyone remembers, I think he got banned for a couple of games.
Right.
And you're just thinking, like, I mean, you feel terrible because he's got banned. But you're thinking, how draconian, how sort of, old-fashioned is this that they've, someone's seen this and taken it so far, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
I mean, this is a topic I wasn't really, I didn't even think of bringing up, but it is so true. And Joe Martin will be listening, thinking that no, that never happened. But people used to ring our payphone at the club, Chris.
Yeah.
Press. They were either it might have been Radio Blackburn or Radio Lancashire if it had gone on. It could have been the Telegraph. It could have been, the Burnley Express. And you'd dread answering the phone because someone would say, "Can you just give me the scores?"
Yeah.
And you'd be on the phone then for 10 minutes whilst you're giving the scores.
Yeah.
And so the Lancashire League was broadcast on Radio Blackburn and then I think Radio Lancashire. And that was well before 1990. So I suppose when they stopped, you're right, Matt, there was no other way of finding out the scores.
No, because again, the other bitter thing I can always remember, and I definitely played in that era, was Jim Kenyon on a Saturday or Sunday night, and they would be at a game, commentating it in the van, and he would regularly update with Lancashire League. Yeah. Was it called Northern League at that time, where Blackpool people played? Ribblesdale League, and
Bird used to do it as well. Yeah, Phil Bird used to do it for all Burnley.
He did, he did, now and there, And going back to that, Jez, where they used to ring up, there's been some classics, haven't there, gone over, and I'm sure it's happened at every club, gone over the the bulletin on Radio Blackburn or Radio Lancashire when they're going around the scores during the day, because they used to give updates during every couple of hours during the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that if they've rung up Lowerhouse and I don't know, Brian Morehouse has answered phone or someone else who's had about 100 pints and said something like, Lowerhouse are 312 for 2 or something like that. And it would just and it come over Radio Lancashire.
Yeah.
The original fake news.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I can also remember, Jez, very early on when Nigel Stockley first started the Lancashire League, it was a nightmare because it was for him. He used to ring the club after every game, and I would have to recite the scorecard to him.
Yeah.
So you'd be on phone for 20 minutes. I'll walk back to the bar, and if I'm around with some people like you was him.
Yeah. And that was because you had to.
Yeah.
And it was almost
at that time, I was only a couple of us could read, so that helped.
Yeah, so it was, when you look at it, whether you think about Facebook or Twitter or other websites, that it's so easy to get onto now. It's difficult to think that we're not talking 70 years ago. We're only talking 2 or 3 decades ago. And
I'd ring up and say, if there's the weather was bad, are they starting on time?
Yeah.
So when do I set off, sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. So you've gone in there at 94, and you mentioned Steve G. I forgot that Steve
Yeah.
G worked at Burnley Express, because obviously he played for Lowerhouse.
Yeah.
A very good cricketer. He played at Burnley, and then, like you said, Padiham and proed a little bit around, I think, at Reed. Going back even before then, I'll not forget, only because his son, I went to school with his son, but Granville Shackleton.
Yeah.
I mean, when would Granville have finished, do you think, Chris?
Good. I mean, it's before my time. It's
Yeah.
so my predecessor was called James Bentley, who he went to work at the BBC, and James's predecessor was
Yeah.
Jimmy McElroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I forgot. Yeah,
I remember that.
McElroy,
Yeah. Can you imagine that now, Jez? Jimmy McElroy used to have to go into the score box.
Yeah.
And sit behind score. Only like 5 years before that, we were playing in the World Cup for Ireland and stuff, weren't it?
Yeah. He's probably on a par with someone like Hurler.
Ireland, yeah.
I'm thinking, if you look at Phil Foden and people like that, who were world class players going in a scorebox and getting the scores and sitting with you. Yeah, because I can remember Granville, and I know this is well before you two. He'd come in the scorebox and sit there and have a couple of pints, and I went to school with his son Stephen, so that's how we got really friendly with Granville, and it was a great atmosphere. You could, they'd be getting the scores and have a couple of pints. They'd watch every ball almost. So when you first started, Chris, you were obviously involved in Burnley Football Club as well, and did you report on all those games and mentored by Edward at those games?
Yeah, my first game was, I think they played Barnet. So we were talking, well, what's League One now, second division then. Beat Barnet 5-0. And I was just understudy to Edward, essentially. I was, he'd do the match report, speak to the manager, and I'd sort of go around. I mean, like I say, I was, very green, wet behind the ears, young lad. And Edward would just say, go and grab a word with him. And you would, and I can always remember. I always remember speaking to Adrian Heath and Liam Robinson at Middlesbrough, first game of the following season after we'd won promotion, and I was just a gibbering, nervous wreck, And Liam Robinson was sort of taking the piss a bit, and Adrian Heath, consummate professional, he gave me exactly what I was looking for without really having to ask for it, sort of thing. But I can remember later on, like that year, when Liam Robinson couldn't get a game, and he's pulling me in the car park and saying, "Oh, Chris, you need to write this, that, and the other." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, all right."
Well, you're my friend now. And back then, obviously, it would have been, the journalist notepad and a pencil that's there. You're making your notes, and your memory's got to be right to get everything right. Did you find that got easier, or was it always a task to make sure you've got everything right?
It's always like, if you remember, like everyone's got voice recorders on their phones now as well. We used to have dictaphones that were the size of your house. And you just you could feel it. Honestly, you'd be in some interviews sometimes holding these dictaphones. You're trying to scribble a few notes as well, but these dictaphones are like weighing your arm down.
These have a full size cassette in them, didn't they?
Oh yeah. And, tape had bloody get mangled. Batteries had run out, and just all sorts of things would go on. I can remember doing a full interview with Nick Mokopoulos. The Greek goalkeeper.
All right, yeah.
Come to Burnley in about 2000. I took him to a Greek greasy spoon in Burnley over at Road from bus station.
El Greco.
Yeah.
El Greco.
And I took him in there, and he sort of the guy in there translated for me. and I've done this like hour-long interview with Nick the Greek, and I taped it. Bloody work, did it?
Oh no!
And I've just done it. I've ended up doing it from memory, And he was. I've not sort of done anything controversial and misquoted him or anything, but
difficult. And I suppose at those times, obviously, there's no county cricket club that you'll be covering.
No.
So the next biggest thing is Burnley Cricket Club and Lowerhouse Cricket Club. But I remember going back around your journalism with the football, and then when we did chat, you have got quite a phenomenal memory, if I remember rightly, about games and when you've done things. Was that something because you were so intense and almost a fan that was following it? Is it, or was it just natural?
Yeah, that was just. Actually, I can remember more things about stuff from 30, 40 years ago than I can from last week. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
But no, I was just from like being, like say, 8, 9, 10. I can always remember with stats and figures and results and
yeah,
players. You can remember, so I can tell you where I were 92 cricket World Cup final and things like that. And,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so music plays a part as well. If you play some kids of nowadays won't get it, will they? If you play like some tracks from the 80s and 90s,
yeah,
instantly you're like taken to a
yeah,
time, a
yeah,
situation, aren't you? So it's
yeah.
I've always been a bit that way out really.
Yeah, yeah. Apart from when Matt got you drunk, but we'll come on to that
It
in
won't
the
be the
next,
first, won't be the
yeah,
last.
yeah, in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So you've developed there. Obviously, Edward, a fantastic man, and he's taught you as you're travelling through. When did you then start to report on cricket, and how did that work? Who got which games? Because like you said, there's Reed, Burnley,
Mm.
Padiham, Lowerhouse. How did it work as to which game you actually went to?
Well, I think I've been there a couple of months, and I ended up going on. I think it was like the June, something like that. So I've been there a couple of months, and I went on against Nelson down at the West End,
Yeah,
and Edward was there. Was it Paul? Was it Paul?
Spencer.
Paul Spencer, yeah. And I've sort of again like I sort of shadowed them and sort of like picked their brains a bit. And Paul did the reports, and I just saw just sort of like a template of like, oh, this is what we're looking for, and this is what we do moving forward. But I'll never forget. I never. That's it. I obviously watched cricket. I used to watch Ashes at me. Pal of mine still involved at Brinscall Cricket Club. Been there for donkey's years, but we used to watch Ashes each summer with his dad, etc. But I remember thinking, bloody hell, it's taking a long while. This, like, so I was due out at Maxime's in Wigan that night, and I ended up catching my mates up. So I was like, so I could do without this every Saturday night, sort of thing.
Yeah. So that early stages, as you're picking it up, I suppose, the potentially three reporters could be there. Yeah, because I forgot Paul had done that. Was he employed by the Burnley Express, or?
They basically just paid him a few quid to do
Yeah,
the odd games and previews and stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean with another Paul Spencer, who's the news reporter. Apologies if I've got his surname wrong, my memory. But he used to do a few games, predominantly Burnley.
right,
Obviously Edward. George would usually do Nelson, and then we had Andrew Spencer who did Cone.
right.
And if holidays and this, that, and the other, you maybe end up at one of the other grounds. But with all due respect, I mean, they gave me Lowerhouse because at the time it was the least desirable club to cover.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they were I joined, I ended up covering them in the middle of the longest run of defeats in Lancashire League history, or
Yeah.
something like that. And I think, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. My mum trained to be a nurse. I don't think people won't know this, but my mum trained to be a nurse at Burnley General with Maureen Payne.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Maureen used to look after me. How's your mum and this, that, and the other. My mum come to a few games. She like sit and like reminisce with Maureen and stuff. And,
Yeah.
so she was like, my mum were made up that I was sort of back on her old turf as such. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I say all the lads were fantastic. I can always remember being invited into the pavilion on the balcony and stuff like that, and always like meant to feel a part of it really. So yeah, I proper enjoyed covering, and you could sense something was building then as well. Like from that it was like an auspicious start, but things started to sort of pick up, and it, what led to that cup victory and the league win and the success we see ever since.
Yeah. And I mean, so I was going to ask you, can you remember the first season when you were really covering it, when when the shackles were off and you'd been given Lowerhouse. Well, I'm just trying to look for myself, really, because I think that season you're talking about was Craig Light's season, I think.
Yes, yeah. I think I met Craig Light. I think he was getting his. I can't remember which shop it might have been Cockers who'd sponsored him.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah,
It was More Sport, the top of Standish Street.
That's the one. That's the
It
one.
was. And Pavarotti, weren't he? The big chap with the beard was on More Sports.
Yes. Yeah.
And Craig, which you wouldn't be surprised about after knowing him throughout the year, turned up and he either only brought one bat, or he didn't bring a bat, or his bat broke at the first net session.
Yeah.
So David Wren, I think it was, had to take him to More Sport because he was the only one that sold cricket gear, apart from Post Office, when you could get them kits with 3 wickets in as well.
Yeah.
So he went in and he picked up I'll never forget this, Dave Wren telling the story about it. He picked up this bat and it was like, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 pound then. So a lot of money. Lowerhouse didn't have a pot to pee in. So Dave Wren's trying to sell him this about, well, yeah, we'll get you sponsored. And if you have any chance of having this bat. He said, and at first he weren't having it, weren't the guy from More Sports. But then Dave Wren said, I looked round and Craig had taken old stickers off because he weren't allowed to buy them. So I don't know. I can't remember if Dave had to buy it or he ended up just saying, just have it. And I think that was the day before or the morning of his first game, James, when he got that 120 odd not out.
Yeah, that were against. I've just got it up now. Yeah, 1994, 17th of April against Rammet. And there is some pictures of that, Chris, and I'm sure they are. Yeah, there are, and I'm quite sure they were press pictures, so that could have been at More Sports.
Yeah. I bet you were there, Chris, because there was pictures, Jez. You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember having a brief chat with him, let's say about this, this sponsorship deal or whatever it was, and actually he'd gone mad on the first few games, scored a lot of runs, and then I mean, obviously this was. I'd been there like a month or two, so he'd started to sort of dry up a little, but by then,
I think the problem with him, he weren't drying up. That was the problem.
Yeah.
I think he found the Burnley nightlife, Chris. That was more the problem.
Well, it's done a few of us that, hasn't it?
It's done better lads than him. Yeah.
So that's 94, and Gary Morehouse was captain then, Chris, and and we and I'm just looking at this Rammy side. It's an outstanding side. Robert Haynes as pro, Jack Simpson, Steve Dearland, Brian Taylor, Ian Bell. There's a quality side there. And we beat them first game of the season, but comfortably 2 wickets down. Craig got 122, and with 4 overs left. But then, as you said, I think we won the first 2 or 3 games there. But then there was a lad I played football with, a goalkeeper called Gary Bradley, that just appeared down at the club from nowhere. And him and Craig Light then just went off on a complete tangent for the rest of that season. So as you were covering the games, Chris, during that period, 94, 95, 96, would you constantly, and I'm not trying to catch you out or trick you or anything, would you be there for most of the game, and would you, be doing ball by ball reporting in your little book?
That was the rule basically. We'd get paid a bit extra. I think it was about 21 quid a game.
Right.
So that'd cover your petrol if you're off to like whatever it were, Bacup or Robert or something. A bit of food.
Yeah.
And your hours basically, but I mean there might have been the odd occasion where you nod off or so on and so forth. But after I can always remember. I mean I was forever like decked out in sunglasses because you usually had a few the night before sort of thing, recliner on it car and driving a gold Fiesta.
Yeah.
That I can always remember getting locked out of it once at a derby game at Burnley. But it was one of them where if you took, I had a coat hanger for radio aerial.
Yeah.
And if I took that out, I could unhook the door and get back in. And so I'd lock myself. And I can remember seeing Stan one time and you're thinking, Stan's with the police. I shouldn't be doing this. But I'm just like breaking breaking into my own car, sort of thing.
Brilliant. You've locked yourself out of your car. So from '94, you've moved on, and like you said, you're relatively new to reporting in and around the league. How did it progress from there? And I know that you ended, or you became a really good friend of a lot of the players, and you socialised with us. Certainly after the games. How did it progress from there to through to the 2000s?
Yeah, like I say, it's probably the year after, because I think Fleggs was, a good character to be around, wasn't he? I always used to have he was always friendly with me, good guy. I can always remember I remember bringing him flyers for the Hacienda just to tell him what was going on in Manchester and stuff like that. It was like frequenting the last days of the Hacienda at the time. But no, Fleggs was great, and obviously, yourselves, the full time. I'd speak to Gary usually every Wednesday night, something like that. Get a few quotes for the preview, and then you'd always be chatting with folk. I said folk would always come and say, you usually come by the car, or if I was sat on a bench, they'd always come and have a bit of a natter. And I just always found it a really friendly, really welcoming place, and it was just. To be fair with you, I was living over in Wifnell at the time, and this is pre the M65 extension being, so it'd take me like 45 minutes to get over. And I'd probably have stopped over for many more bloody nights out and sessions, but yeah, I think I ended up on your couch one night from memory, Matt. I think,
You did, yeah.
Seen better days on the Monday after.
Yeah, I think I remember rightly. I wouldn't like to say the year, but I think the game had been rained off.
I think it was the last game of the '97 season.
Right, well, it might not have been rained off. I might have got it totally wrong because I just thought it would have been one of them that rained off, and we probably did it on purpose and bought you one too many pints so you couldn't drink, you couldn't drive. So was it last game and last?
I can remember that
game in '97.
Yeah, I can remember going in bar and buying. I think I bought the entire team a pint. And I got them back plus.
Yeah.
I can always remember Penny and Chippy doing some. Were it Footloose, dancing to Footloose in the clubhouse and all.
Yeah.
I think we probably went downtown after that or something like that, but.
Yeah, and that's the infamous year, the '97. We've done it so many times on the podcast where we could still have won the league, and I think that's why there was a big hype around it. We still had all the players playing. No one had gone off playing football or anything, but unfortunately, we didn't come anywhere near, and we got beat at East Lancs. So yeah, we would have come back and then had a good few. Sociable pints together, and like you said, I think you younger ones that have got into town, and then back, the legend has it that you end up on Matt's settee, which is fantastic. So that's '97, but you're still obviously through the winter doing football through that period. You're getting established now. You've been in the game for 3, 4, 5 years. What memories and big occasions, special occasions, can you tell us about from Burnley Football Club, from the games you've done there? Is there anything you can share with us there?
Good grief! Yeah, so many. It's I'd say I'd shadowed Edward. I was going to every game and stuff, but sort of maybe after Stan took over. Probably towards the end of the '90s, and Edward it's probably like we all ended up hitting that sort of wall where you just get sick of travelling up and down the country every week.
Yeah,
and he probably he thought, go on, you can have a stint at it now, sort of thing. But they were just all. I was at Wembley within a few weeks of starting, if you remember.
Yeah.
They got the Wembley final, relegated a year later and all this. And
was that the Sherpa Van final against Wolves?
No, the second division playoff final in Stockport.
Right, okay, right.
And I always remember going to went into the press box at Wembley, and I was like a nervous bloody wreck, me, and it says time-honoured tradition, journalists, they have a drink and a smoke and stuff. We'd gone to the bar in the press room, and I think like Edward was there. Tony Garner, who covered Burnley for a while for Telegraph. They're all like, "Do you want a drink?" And I'm like, so I'm well reaching into my wallet, and barman's like, "No, it's a free bar, guys." It's woohoo, that sort of thing. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it was just all sorts of memories like that. Just Stan was an education. Kath, his missus, God rest her soul, she used to work at our place as well, and Kath was brilliant. I always remember I used to ring Stan on a Monday morning, whether it were in season or out season, just to get a story. And I remember he'd not told me he'd gone on holiday one year. So anyway, I've rung Stan's mobile up, and it's coming up with he's abroad. Oh shit, he's abroad. What the hell do you want? In the morning. I'm sorry, Stan. And anyway, phone slams down. 2 minutes later, "Hiya, love, it's Kath. I've given him a cigarette and a cup of coffee, and he'll ring you back in 10." So she were a lovely little buffer. But he was like I say, he was old school Stan, but he'd all them values, respect and discipline and stuff. And if you were late for a to see Stan or to ring him, that were it. You missed him.
Yeah.
And you learn, you to be on time or early, sort of thing. But,
yeah. I mean, there is legendary stories, isn't there, from lots of people around Stan Ternent and what went on there. Did you ever feel, because there was quite a big turnover around that time, around the managers, with big names coming in and attracting various players that came along, did you ever feel intimidated? And how did you manage that? How did you manage that, not being overawed by them?
Yeah, that's sort of like say I've gone from this sort of like really nervous kid to sort of you get quite a bit of confidence, right? Again, another one. I remember being at Chesterfield, 1995, and Jimmy Mullen was under a bit of pressure. And Burnley, I think they went 2-0 down, pulled it back to 2 apiece, and ended up losing 4-2. And I think I'd asked Mullen. I said, "What did you think of the fans behind the goal singing like Mullen out?" It must can't be. And I think he pulled Edward to one side. So I don't like the Tony or your lads questioning sort of thing. But you just you've got to do it. So you end up, you just take it on and crack on. Like Waddle was one of my heroes as a kid.
Yeah.
So that was a peculiar one. Because you end up not just seeing him at games and stuff, but you're ringing him up on a Monday and a Thursday, getting these pre-press conferences.
Yeah,
you get all the material you could together, and he was good as gold with me. Glenn Roder the same.
Yeah,
and like I say, Stan was different fish altogether. But he's like you couldn't not love him or appreciate him. Even though he fell out with me in our band for the last 6 months, I think, something like that.
I mean, when you think, and I think it's different when you're doing it for, you're obviously the press lads are in, there with the manager, but it does get sometimes now when you see it on TV and they're really pushing the managers, and it does get a bit embarrassing at times that they're trying to get the manager to say something that they either shouldn't or that they might regret, and it's almost cringeworthy. And the managers are so well trained now
exactly,
to not answer
they've
inappropriately.
They've all the media training, haven't you? And it's like you say, trying to get Sean Dyche to, people would always say, "Oh, you never ask the tough questions with Sean." And there's you get to know people. There's certain ways of you try certain different ways of trying to get the information or whatever you want, sort of thing. But Sean would never fall for any of that. You saw Pep last week with someone I know quite well, Jack Gorn from the Mail, and he's like, "I'm not giving the Daily Mail the headline you want," and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
They've all been trained to the nth degree now, and it is a bit, like I say, probably a bit cringeworthy. It used to be you could usually get a manager, well, if anyone asked me to be interviewed an hour after a football game, especially a controversial one, you get all sorts of emotional opinions.
Yeah.
That's the way I am. But and that's everyone remembers Keegan going off from
Yeah.
the Sky and stuff. But
Yeah.
you don't get that. You don't get that so often nowadays.
No, I don't think you will. And it is interesting if it's the opposite of how my training was. I don't know if you see it, Matt or Joe. They're very good. They talk all the time. You know, the journalist will ask a closed question, which you should only answer yes or no. 3 minutes later, they're still talking. The coach or the player are still chatting around it. Did you have any training, Matt, for dealing with the press when you were captain?
Yeah, I had quite a bit. No, normally at bar after.
Yeah,
Yeah. Making sure Chris bought his round.
yeah.
I can remember doing one in Yates's one day.
Yeah.
I think we'd met in Yates's or something. Yeah.
There were quite a few, Chris. There were quite a few. And I remember during that period around the early, like mid-90s, with me and a few mates of mine, it was a bit of a standing joke because it were Fridays, and I was all based at home. So this is a long time ago, and you had in my first job when I was based at home, I didn't have a mobile phone, so I'm working for a company that's in Birmingham, and I didn't have a mobile phone, so they weren't ringing you or tracking you or whatever. I had a fax machine at home, so I spent many a Friday from dinner time onwards in Big Window, so that some of them made me saying, "Oh, anybody know where matters? He'll be in his office." Big Window. Yeah, I think a few chats on Friday afternoons.
That's where we go. You pick up little nuggets of stuff. You'd be writing stories on beer mats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Chris, just on a different one now, because I'm really interested in it. I'm sure a lot of other people are. When you're talking about you working at Burnley, so you'd have been there when we signed the likes of Gascoigne in here, right? Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
What was that like for someone like Burnley who would sign Ron Futcher one weekend and then Paul Gascoigne 6 weeks later?
Well, there were a bit of speculation around Wright, and I'd asked Stan outright, pardon the pun, on the day before, and he just, no, that's bollocks, son. And you often knew if Stan was telling you it was bollocks, there was quite often something in it. So it was hard to sort of decide which way to lean on some of those occasions. But that was mind blowing, wasn't it? Valentine's Day and Valentine's Day, right? He signed, and there's a picture that does the rounds every February of his press conference, and you've never seen it as packed. Honestly, even with it, what it's like now in the Premier League, it's never been as busy. And I asked him a question about. I just said basically, what the bloody hell are you doing here? Basically, you could play for anyone, And he just started going on about, well, I had to get out of Celtic, and he started calling us. He called the Celtic fans reptiles.
Did he?
And inadvertently, this bloody quote made everywhere, and it's gone off on one. But we didn't speak to Righty again, because you go down to the training ground and Stan would tell you to speak to before games, and obviously after games you'd probably speak to who scored the winner or a captain or something. But we tried to speak to him at Scunthorpe after promotion, and to his credit, he said, "It's not about me; it's about this lot. Don't speak to me."
Right.
In a polite, in
a nice way.
Nice way. But he came back for the 125th celebrations, a dinner at Turf Moor, and he gave me and everyone knows my missus. It covered Burnley as well for a period, but gave me and my missus a sort of private audience, and he was absolutely brilliant. Just a really nice, really nice.
Yeah.
As you see him on TV, everyone's, you see that's that story about his old teacher that always gets me. It always hits me, that one. The one that I actually had faith in him. And what a guy. But Gascoigne, never seen sightness of him, to be honest.
Did you not? No.
It's on YouTube, that, isn't it? There's a half-an-hour program when he meets him.
Oh, it's just wonderful, isn't it?
It is.
Tough upbringing, hasn't he? But
he had any. I mean, they're fantastic memories for you, Chris, and to go through that sort of period and understand and to get to know these sorts of players. if we move on then, so we're looking at, you know, the early 2000s. We obviously we won the cup in 2004. Just describe what it was like then, you know, being the journalist with us. How was that going for those few
Well,
years?
I've got to be honest. The cup final, young colleague of ours, Phil Simpson, you know, son of Ray, who was historian at the football club for a while. Phil did the final so I could have a drink.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So I was sat with Phil all game, and I think I were one of these running up pitch and this, that, and the other. And, but no, I mean that was just. I mean, I can't understand from you guys' perspective what it must have meant to you. I mean, I was like 10 years following Lowerhouse then, and I was just you're like. I am an emotional so and so at times, and it was an emotional day, especially afterwards. I was helping Phil get some quotes because I mean we've interviewed everyone, every player, German, everyone, and like I say, speaking to David Wren and Ken Small, he was still around, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And when you're speaking to those characters and what it meant to them. And that really brings it home. I mean, they've waited their entire lives to see that, and that's what it's about for me. You know, it was magic to see that. Just like I said, grown, you know, adult men.
Yeah,
absolutely speechless. You know, just fabulous. You know, what a day. Again, Trip was there again with his curry pot. He had a big dustbin full of curry, I remember, and things like that. Just seeing the place absolutely packed to the rafters, and he just felt this is going to be the day, sort of thing. But curiously, a year later, when the league was in the bag, I was in Sorrento, and a mate of mine was getting married in Sorrento, and. Again, we're talking sort of like very early days of the internet and this, that, and the other. And I was like back and forth finding out, have they done it, sort of thing. And staying in touch while I was in Sorrento. So they were incredible times then.
Yeah, it is. And you're so right in describing those sorts of people who've never seen that. And you know, and will, you know, they've left us now. So a lot of those people, but they have had that day when, like you said, grown men in tears, you know, because of how long they've watched cricket. So moving on from there, Chris, and we look at where we're at now with the press and you know the Burnley Express and then the Telegraph and everywhere else in the country. What was the demise of local sport being reported on as well as it used to be? Was it just down to the internet, or do you have a different view?
Yeah, I think you can pretty much pinpoint it at that.
Yeah,
you know, the sort of turn of the century, turn of the millennium, and all of a sudden stories are going on websites free of charge.
Yeah,
and the newspapers weren't monetizing them.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah.
And we had these conversations, these arguments. Why are we giving our work away for free? But nobody's going to buy a newspaper if you give our work away for free.
Yeah,
and it just, I don't know why, it was just, it just happened.
Yeah.
And then you go to sort of from the Burnley Express perspective, sort of 2009ish, and again, it's probably more to do with the financial situation worldwide and this, that, and the other. The company that owned us, I mean, we just started shedding staff. They were stripping it. You know, we were encouraged to join a union around that time, and there was little done to stop this. The sub editors all left. Everyone who checked our copy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we as a sports desk, we went from there was myself, Phil Simpson, that I mentioned, Edward, and Dan Black.
Yeah.
And like I said, with a four-man sports desk, and only one of us was allowed to be on holiday at once. So there had to be three of us in. And then all of a sudden, we ended up in the situation. Edward took voluntary redundancy, and Phil left to go around. I think he went touring the world for a period and just basically gave up. So we ended up, two of us doing the
Yeah.
job, doing the jobs of 4.
Yeah.
And like I say, everything, it's just been on a downward spiral ever since with the
Yeah.
the way for thin papers. And
Yeah.
I always like I said, I'm nothing if not loyal.
Yeah.
I was aware of the responsibilities that we had to the Lancashire League and its history and its
Yeah.
prestige
Yeah. Yeah.
into our local clubs, and the successes they'd had and the players they generated and this, that, and the other. And I always felt that there should be a presence, and we always tried to sort of keep the previews going and stuff. We
Yeah.
weren't at games anymore, which is probably political because the pay that was what we were getting paid in '94 was exactly the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was just no, not a chance, not a chance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but like I always so I was a big lover of that local stars, like seeing like Sophie Hitchen go from Pendle Athletics Club to winning a Olympic bronze medal, and Samantha Murray and Clitheroe similar, and just ordinary people excelling at sport and making a big fuss of them. So
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it just seems to me it's just that the people who own the newspapers now are only interested in clicks,
Yeah.
and they're not. But they realise that how many people go watching. 100 years ago, Nelson FC were beating Real Madrid. How many people watch them now? So
Yeah.
why are you covering Nelson when you get 4 clicks or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
That never sat right with me. To me, you
No.
should cover these clubs, these famous institutions, and
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
it's sort of faded away.
Yeah, it very much has, and it's difficult it clearly is not going to come back. It's not going to be a resurgence of newspapers coming out that people can read on locally. I mean, and for the reporting, is it your experience then? Clubs, I mean, not the cricket clubs have their own website, don't they? Adam has everything on there that is dynamite. So. In the football world, the semi-pro football world, Nelson and Padiham and these clubs, do they report on themselves and then it's on and then it's on
a lot of them give young lads an opportunity. They're filming, they're getting their experience interviewing managers and players, and it's good that way, I suppose. But like I said, I mean, for a long time when they started getting their websites, they'd be sending us the match reports, and we'd always speak to all the managers, and bear in mind, let's say we covered Nelson, Barn Aldrich ended up in the Northwest Counties League, so we were doing them. We'd say we had a paper in Clitheroe, doing Clitheroe. Then try and doing like your Burnley Belvederes and Burnley United, and all this sort of thing. And I mean, junior football stopped. They stopped. We used to have like you'll remember the old information page, won't you?
Yeah.
It used to be about 2 pages at times.
Yeah.
And it'd take probably a day and a half to input everything. Because we were literally, every keystroke was us, me and Edward. And bowls, with all these mountains of bowls leagues.
Yeah, that's right,
Weekend teams.
Yeah.
All this. But the junior football, they stopped sending results in because they weren't allowed to announce the results, were they?
Right.
Why not? It went against competition and this, that, and the other, didn't it? So you ended up if you can't produce the results, we can't produce match reports. I can't just say, "Oh, these 2 teams played at the weekend and they had a jolly good time doing it." And
and there wasn't a winner, there wasn't a loser, and everyone was happy.
Football was the winner.
Yeah, because when you think, I don't know if Joe Martin's listening here, but if you can remember the teams that used to be in, the football teams, all the different Sunday league teams and the Saturday teams, and a lot of people found out whether you were dropped or not by looking in the paper, and
someone would always try and sneak in a rogue name as well.
Yeah.
They might have sneaked in once or twice.
Just talking of that, I think Gary was the captain, and I think we would have been in the lane ends on a Friday night, and it was always then it was the captain's job to ring up and tell someone if they weren't picked in the first team. Bear in mind in that era how close we all were, how it was just like all friends. many a horrible conversation with, I'm not going to name people, but lots of different people saying, oh, you're not in this week, I'm sorry. And it were like, it was telling your mate, and it were gutted. I'll never forget one night on a Friday night, we were in Lane Ends, and Proc had found out he had dropped some paper.
Oh, good grief.
Because I think Gary had forgot to ring him or rung him and get in touch with him, and he found out he was in seconds from Burnley Express on the Friday.
So I've another story about Proc, actually. And I think I can remember a game where I think he dropped a chance that, and had he taken it, you'd have won the game, and you ended up losing this game. And people know when they don't need it ramming on to them that, when you've made a mistake, it's happened sort of thing. But I think you lot had photocopied hands and stuck them all over the dressing room wall or something like that. Like, absolutely hammered him.
Yeah, definitely. We used to have a notice board in the dressing room where things like that went up. And Proc were always good fun for that. He was always, he was the team, the team joker, but he could always take the jokes really well. Just going back to the Burnley Express, Chris, I remember chatting to you one time about the nap that you used to do. Remember the every week or twice a week you'd give a nap of the week, and I was always excited.
Yeah, as well. Kim Pilling, who used to work for us. He was a news reporter. He used to do the horse racing.
Right.
Horse racing. I can remember. I've never been a big horse racing man, but I remember winning handsomely one afternoon off one of his predictions. But he used to study the form and
and then just pick one,
put it out there, and hopefully there were a few local winners.
Absolutely, no, it was all good fun. Joe Martin, I know it's been a little bit pre your time. I'm sure you've got something you want to add to us, or ask Chris any questions. Is there anything you want to come in with?
Well, I can actually. When I started playing for the third team, I think people weren't told they were playing through mobile phones. It was you'd go and look in the paper to see if you'd been picked or dropped.
Yeah.
And that was still a thing. That was standard response to I'm playing this weekend would be have a look in the Thursday paper or Friday. So it was still a thing, and also you were always extremely sort of proud to have your name in the paper as a kid, and even Joe Beneducci's not here, but I can remember when he retired, and there was a full write up on his retirement when he'd stopped playing, and.
Bloody hell! It must have been a quiet week for news that week. Jesus
Wraparound special, 8 pages.
Absolutely. God, I bet there must have been. I didn't know we had COVID in the 90s.
That was a fun time. Tell me about it.
Well, yeah, it was. You always brilliant. My Auntie Margaret would always ring up and let us know that that we're in the paper and that she'd seen us in the paper or at school or something. So it was always brilliant. And even now, if there's a bit of a controversial decision or something made, players will still say,
have a look at paper.
Have a look in Tuesday's Express.
But that's another one. Why it's important to sort of to make sure we report on and record local sports. The importance of seeing your name in the paper. I've done it myself when I played Sunday League, when I was a lad in Bristol sort of thing. And, you were buzzing if you scored or you seen your name, and even team photos, something like that. And
yeah. But no, you're right that it was even, like say, after being captain or before you were captain, you'd always look, wouldn't you? And you always used to do something with like a bit of a headline, the match report, and then whoever had done anything, there used to be a little like passport picture of them.
Yeah.
And it was nearly always Blaise and then someone else. It was like,
I'll tell you, towards the end when we weren't, with no photographers anymore, you would just rely on Oh shit! It's with someone. I've got a picture of it. Stop blabbing again.
Yeah.
But Joe, just to
Let's-
go back to that, just two quick ones if I can. You know when you said like you'd wait to look in the paper, Joe, and this sounds really daft. And I must have been down there probably with my dad, or I'd have only been 12, that kind of age, hoping to get a game in third team, or hoping to be picked for the game. I never forget. I remember my debut because my dad had me kit in car and someone didn't turn up, so I played in thirds one day. A bit like my first team debut, that just wasn't it, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But when you're 12, Joe, and you're doing all right in under 13s or under 15s, and you're looking, I'll never forget Tuesday nights with selection down at club, and in the old club when they had that little like cubicle, whatever you want to call it, vestibule, whatever you want to call it, they put the teams up, and many a time while I've been down there, Dad's probably picking Jez up from training or whatever. And I'll be up at the door trying to peek through letterbox, see if I've been picked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that age, I never was. But the other funny tale I want to tell, and it wasn't your paper because it was Evening Telegraph. We played at Cong in a game and had a bit of a fallout with their pro Chris Killen, and he got a little bit of a send off on the way off, and someone from the game, spectator, had complained. So it was headline news. It was the front page news in the Telegraph. It was, I'll never forget it, 4-letter word called as cricket rumpus.
Yeah.
And they quoted Chippy.
Yeah.
And he still says to this day, it weren't me, it were you, man. It probably were, to be fair. But I'll never forget him. No one knew about it. So, like, it weren't on the internet. You didn't get a bloody notification on your phone what happened. And Chippy said he was at work and his dad rung him.
Yeah.
He said, you better get home. Why? He said, what did you do? Yesterday you were on front page at Lancashire Evening Telegraph. Someone's complained about what you've said to this man walking off the pitch. And it was front honestly, it was front page.
Great.
Yeah.
Different time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
There were photos all around with it as well, Matt, if you remember, for that.
Yeah.
And it was almost like quoting the wicketkeeper said, and then it's asterisks out, get off the asterisks, and get on. And Chippy laughs and Joy said, and it was all Matt, it wasn't even my fault. And I had to buy a load of newspapers so no one else bought any.
and still the same, they had an interview, because obviously they didn't ring Chippy up, but the pro Chris Killen, and I never forget it. I think I've still got it actually somewhere. I don't know where. And it asked him, and it was like, it was almost like you could feel him crying as you were reading his words. I've never been so abused on a cricket pitch in my life. I'm thinking you were 6'4" Australian. You were horrible. Yeah. You were horrible giving it, and then you know what I mean. This was someone's rung you up. I've never felt so abused. My family were there, and all this.
What rubbish.
Sob story.
I mean, those photographs. When I hadn't put this in my crib sheet as to what to talk about, but there used to be some fantastic live photographs, didn't there, from some of the old photographers?
Shots,
yeah.
Yeah, when we used to get, with a photographer, we'd just sort of which of the local games are we going? And often you get photos if they're a derby game. Perfect. You can get both, stock action of both teams, sort of thing. So derby were always put down, but I mean you could do like a proper spread if you got the photos. Yeah. And they make for some really good action shots. It just lifted the whole thing, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. And it was, when you got your own photo, and you were so proud, your mum would cut it out, your aunties would be talking about it. It was amazing times. Young kids would be laughing and joking about it now, thinking, what on earth are they talking about?
We used to take the cutouts and the pictures and into school, and have to the head teacher for assembly on a Friday.
Yeah. I mean, I'll come round you all in a minute to just see if you've got any final points or anything. But I think I've just got to reiterate. I don't know if you've ever heard this, Chris. You obviously know Tony Woodworth, and the fact played in goal for Burnley, and whatever year that would have been, 86,
87, wasn't it?
86, 87. And then, for those who don't know what happened, poor Tony it was actually his second full game. Well, his second first team game. His first one was called off against Bolton away at half time because of fog, and unfortunately Tony got thrust in right at the last minute. John Eenan was injured, and he let 6 goals in against Hereford at home. And he used to talk about it, and well, what standard have you ever played at? So one day, myself and Tony were working together round the corner from the library. We went round and we were having a look at all the old cuttings from the Burnley Express, and it had all 6 captions for all 6 goals. They were like a shot in the goal, and there was only one of the photos where Tony was actually in the picture. all the other 5, he's outside his box on his backside, or he's the wrong side of the goal or whatever. But it was fantastic going and look at the old microfeatures in there. It was really
it was brilliant, that Jez, and that one him in the picture with a penalty.
That's right. Yeah.
That was the lowest attendance. There was 1,600 on that night, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Were you on then, Chris? Can you remember?
I was.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny. Tony, he laughs at himself, but you can't take the fact away that he was a pro footballer.
Exactly,
But he also tells a story of he didn't really know him at the time. But there was this young kid outside the dressing room begging for tickets, and Tony gave him one of his tickets, and he's gone in, and he's gone in for free, and then they get beat 6-0, and he's at the edge of the tunnel shouting, Woodworth, you're useless, you're useless. And it turns out, so Tony says, it was Frank Entwistle, his name, that it was actually Frank, but some great memories around it. Chris, we'll go round everyone just to see if there's any final points before we wrap up. We've been on for nearly an hour and a half, and it's been really entertaining. I've really enjoyed that, Chris. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks very much for giving us that, and we'll get the episode out. But first of all, I'll come to you, Joe Martin, if there's anything you want to add or ask, and then Matt, and then I'll finish off with Chris. So, Joe, is there anything you want to ask of anyone that's on now, or any points you want to make?
No, I think it's been really great to listen to Chris talk about in the 90s reporting.
Yeah.
And I think local news is really important. I think Stan always talks about how, Lowerhouse has a really strong fan base, not just, to support the club and whatever, but actually come and watch the players play because they have some kind of relationship with the local players that play and they speak to them. And I think, and reporting has always had a big part to play in that. It's important aspect of and enjoying this that you can read about later. It's a shame that it's great that still talk about when it was, and thanks for it. Jesse kind of reminds me of the old our old COVID interview. It's been really good to come back.
Yeah, some old reminiscing. It doesn't. I was saying that earlier to someone that most of the podcasts, and also because the club is thriving and the players are playing so well, we all seem to be talking about, this was great at weekend, so and so's done so well. It's good to look back at these sorts of times and talk through them. Just one point, Chris, before I come to you, Matt. I'm sure you'll have seen it on the website, and Anne Cochran from the club does a fantastic job at looking at all the history around the club. And I don't know if you get a chance to have a look at it, but some of the articles, they laugh at me, the young lads, because I really enjoy reading, knowing what went on in, even back, before the 1920s, but, the articles from the papers from the 40s and 50s and how it all went. So anyone who's listening, please have a look at those. That's Anne Cochran, who scours the library and all the different history books to try and get material in. So it is worth looking at that. Matt, have you anything you want to ask before we finalise the episode?
No, not really. It does bring it all back to what I say. Not particularly the standard of cricket or our standard of cricket, although I wouldn't swap anything that I did with regards to the teams I played in, but of how much it did mean, like Joe Martin just said about how much it meant, and you only knew if you read the Burnley Express. If you didn't go to the net game, you only knew if you read the 10 paragraphs in the Burnley Express. And I think that to me says it all of way, and way before I played Jez as well. Like you just said, there's it was going on for years and years, weren't it? And it was just it is a shame now, but it just wouldn't happen at the minute because everything's so instant, and you can watch the games on YouTube now. Never mind wait till Tuesday to see the results. So which is all for the better. But no, it was really good. Just one question, Chris, that I'm going to ask: what are you up to now? What do you do now? How different is your job now to?
Oh, wildly different. Yeah, I've been working for the last 3 years in the NHS, PR and communications over at Lancashire Teaching Hospital. So, like I said before, my mum worked in the NHS, and my uncle and my dad and everyone else basically. So I think ultimately I was going to do something in that way. But it's wildly different. It's enjoyable. Yeah.
So why did you come out of sports journalism? Just because of the way it's gone? And
yeah, I just had enough of the old. That's it. It's not about. Nobody's interested. Guess who's driving this car training, man? I don't give a shit what cars are driving. Who's had his hair cut this week? I just don't recognise. No, I want to read about. I want to read like analysis of what's happened and an opinion. And other than that, I don't go in for much of this modern way of doing things. But
No, I don't blame you. It's nowhere near as entertaining. So really appreciate you coming on. Thanks ever so much. It's been really helpful, and to get you two back together, back to the old days. So, Chris, I really appreciate, and the listeners will enjoy it. It's been a blast. Thanks very much. Is there anything you want to add before we finalise the episode?
No, I just want to say, I mean, like I said, from the club I entered through the doors, 31 years ago, and welcomed so warmly, and to see what it's what it's become, it's absolutely magnificent. It's testament to, let's say, some of the names that we've mentioned that aren't with us anymore, but pretty much your generation and the one that's followed. That's sort of the committee and all the lads that's volunteered and put the graft in to make the club one of the the standout clubs in the Lancashire League.
Yeah, it is. It's it's a good credit to those people who are there now, and to keep it going, the way it is. So, Chris, thanks ever so much. Let's see next summer if you're around. Come down, we'll grab a pint. It's a little bit different now. There's thousands watching. We struggle to get to the bar, but we can still grab a pint. So I really appreciate you coming on. It's it's been a pleasure to listen to those stories, and I'm sure people will get a lot of entertainment from it. So thanks to everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will be doing the extra draw in the next podcast, along with probably November's draw. So keep your ears tuned in, and keep for any news on the website. Anyone wants to join the draw, then please just give us a shout. So thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you. Bye.